Hello, everyone. Welcome to the final day of the C3EB Summit, the Culturally Competent Conversations for Equity and Belongingness Summit. This is going to be yet another amazing talk by an amazing person that I consider a little sister. So this is going to be so thrilling and wonderful to be able to shine the spotlight on her. But before I do that, again, a couple of housekeeping notes. Make sure you comment on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel, subscribe, send us ratings, put your comments, put your questions for our speaker there. Even if you are watching this later, we are monitoring our chat even after the summit, so we will make sure that your questions get to our speaker and that they get answered. And before I introduce her, last thing I have to say, and if you're watching any of these at this point, you should be used to this. Thank you so much to our partners and sponsors who believe in the C3EB Summit dream and who are walking the walk with us for equity, belongingness, and intentional inclusion. A huge thank you to Essential IT, our web team, Defy the Status Quo Marketing, Zanzibar Enterprises, and the Nielsen Company. With that being said, it is my absolute honor to read you our speaker's entire life history in her bio. So today, I'm thrilled to bring to you Shadora L. Ford, the founder of Destined for Greatness Mentoring Initiative. Shadora was born on August 6, 1989, at the Samaritan Hospital exactly at 2:56 p.m., and she entered the world and greeted her proud parents. Shadora attended Detroit public schools and was always active in school activities, clubs, and sports teams. Over the years, she received awards, trophies, and also disciplinary actions governed by unacceptable behavior. At this point, Shadora was labeled a smart but at-risk youth. Without a doubt, statistics were on the side of those who counted her out. By the age 16, Shadora had secured a spot on the Denby High School girls basketball team, softball team, cross-country track team, was the president of the Denby Christian Club, vice president of TOPS, that's Teens Outreach to Prevent Substance Abuse, and nominated by her peers as most likely to succeed. And that was all just by the age of 16. The accomplishments were still not enough to raise the statistics of labeling off a young lady born into a drug-infested neighborhood and raised by a single mother. She successfully graduated Denby High School and went on to Wayne County Community College to study pre-mortuary science while attending a pilot program at Wayne State University. WCCCD hired Shadora as a work study to work in the library and gain bookkeeping skills and an opportunity to service the public. The Wayne State University Mortuary Pilot Program allowed students the opportunity to get up close and personal with embalming bodies and hands-on experiences with corpses that were donated for study purposes. At both schools, she was the youngest of her classmates, which never seemed to amaze her, given that she blended well but missed serving those who needed her the most, the living beings. By the age of 18, Shadora enrolled into the Ross IES Youth Program, where she worked amongst her peer group and enforced positive change and fairness for everyone. Her supervisor changed her position to administrative assistant and increased her workload, which afforded her the opportunity for another promotion from the Ross IES Human Resources to work at one of the Michigan Works one-stop centers. In that position as customer service liaison, there was a script to answer the phone and a script to assist customers on site. Sometimes Shadora deviated from the script and extended her position requirements with the knowledge she possessed to help job seekers and those coming in need of important resources. That saying, if you always do what's right, you never have to worry about getting caught doing wrong. This metaphor served her well as she encountered career one-stop secret shoppers who submitted their reports and giving her 5 stars in each category rated. She was awarded incentives by the company and given accolades from her coworkers, but that wasn't her goal. In late May of 2010, Michigan Works One Stop announced its layoffs due to failure of contract renewal with the City of Detroit Employment Solutions, and many feared this day would come. But for a young lady full of life, this was just a stepping stone. In June 2010, Shadora met her first Youth of Black Family Development, and with the great mentorship of her own, she became ready for the challenge. In 2010, Shadora became Miss Ford and now serves over 500 plus girls in the Metro Detroit area, runs college-ready and entrepreneurship camps through Wayne State and Oakland University employees, employs Detroit youth through the Destined for Greatness Youth Training Program, and Ms. Ford is employed with the mayor's office currently in the Department of Neighborhoods as a District 4 Vista. The same girl who was counted out is now being counted on and as a WCW. You're going to explain to people what that is. It's not how you start, it's more of how you plan to finish. Her own statement, in her words, "I will always serve my community and love the people in it. I have met many people, shook lots of hands, and kissed babies with no political agenda at this time. I just want to see justice, equity, and racial equality prevail." What a life story. And with that, it is my absolute honor to turn the stage over to Shadora Ford. Shadora, take it away. Uh-oh, I think we're having technical difficulties here because Shadora is frozen. Ah, there she is. You are muted.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, AJ, for the beautiful introduction. You are one of my many mentors, supporters, and big sisters. I thank you for having me. I am very, very honored to be a part of the C3 EB Summit. And I am honored to call you my sister, my friend, and someone who I look up to do the work that I do. So going back, a WCW is a woman counting wins. So often as women, we don't count ourselves in, being that we're always at the bottom of the totem pole a lot of times. So a woman counting wins is what I do every Wednesday. I put up a woman who is doing great community work or have a great business or whatever, but to support those women. We call it a WCW, a woman counting wins, and we will continue to count wins. Also, what I really wanted to say was thank you to everyone who's watching, every sponsor, every donor. Thank you so much, because we needed this platform to share with others. It's very important, the work that we do, but it's more important to show the work that we do. So today my topic is how does equity affect African American families living in high poverty areas? And it goes back to my background. If you heard her read my bio, I myself grew up in a very poverty-stricken, high poverty community as a young child. In fact, I actually grew up in a drug house. My mom's brother was one of the biggest drug dealers in our community. And although drug money was there, we still grew up in poverty. So from that aspect, I have insight. Working with the youth that I work with Destined for Greatness mentoring, I have that aspect of knowing how it affects, the equity affects African American and people of color. From birth, when you're born into poverty, your mom doesn't have access to healthcare. Many people know that to be a woman of color and to have a white doctor, that's not the best for your child, because having a Black doctor and that woman knowing what it takes and knowing what it needs to have this Black baby survive is very important. And we don't have access to doulas. Or what about the mother who does not have access to transportation, which is one of the biggest barriers in our community, whereas a white woman could definitely just hop in a car and go. She has the support of her family. She has the support of her community and resources. She can access resources that can help her to get the maternal and the infant care that she needs for her and her baby, and for her baby to thrive and not just survive. So in that aspect, at birth, people of color are very much born in a high poverty community. We are more at risk of failing or being failed by the system. Children, we have little children, little kids who are hungry. And if you look in any urban community, you'll notice that there are no grocery stores that have access to fresh produce and fresh meat. You go in a grocery store, you see an apple that's marked up for $2.69 a pound, and more than likely it's almost going bad anyway. And then you look into our communities where there's a Whole Foods. There's one Whole Foods in Detroit, Michigan, and it's located in the area where it's the new Detroit, where it's being gentrified. And that one grocery store has all the items that's great and that's good for your body. But if you're someone who has who's low income, of African American descent, and you have a bridge card, you can't go in there and shop for what you would at a store for your family. Like one apple in a regular grocery store is maybe $2.69. An apple in Whole Foods is going to be $12. Like that is set up so that we can't afford it. So if you can't afford it, you can't have access to it. And then you have Kroger's. Kroger's is not in the urban areas. You have to travel across 8 Mile. You get to Kroger's, you have to purchase you have to get a Kroger's card and so forth. And those are barriers for people of color living in high impoverished communities. Walmart's, Myers, you notice they're all outside of the boundaries of the city lines for urban Americans. And so those are things that really, really touch heavy on my heart, because knowing that we are disadvantaged, knowing that there's not equity or equality or anything for people of color to access. Even with food banks, most of the food banks you go to and you try to get fresh produce or fresh meat, it's almost a day before it goes bad, or it's already bad and you just have to get it because it's frozen and then reheated or whatever. But there's a lot of inequities with the way families, African American families, thrive. And so what we do at Destined for Greatness, we try to bridge that gap. We try to break those barriers and try to maintain great spirits while doing it. We serve every other Thursday. Diapers are hard to come by. In all of the grocery stores I went to purchase diapers to give away, they're sold out. We don't know when we're going to get any more. But then when I go across 8 Mile to the suburbs, there's diapers, there's wipes, there's access to everything you need. But the average family can't make it across 8 Mile. They can't make it to that far out store. So the barrier is already set for them. Even just like jobs. So women, Black African American women make 55.5% less than the average white counterpart. A Latino or Hispanic makes even less, 45.5% thereof of their white counterparts. So at that grade, we're already set up to fail. And because there are so many single mothers in the African American community, a single mother is about 35.5% of that, because she has to raise her child. She has to put food on the table. She has to have access to bus lines and transportation. She has to pay rent. She has to make sure that the family can get what they need. And it's not great. It's not a good thing. And to see these families go through this process, it makes me an expert to talk about it. And it also makes me a change maker to help make changes and policies to make sure that those barriers are broken. I didn't prepare a PowerPoint for you all today, but I'm talking off of experience and what I know. So if you have any questions, you can definitely drop them down in the Dropbox. Also, share, like the video, and you can also comment as well. Healthcare. So healthcare is a big thing in the African American community. We suffer a major loss at babies, at infant mortality, because a lot of mothers deal with postpartum depression, which with white women, they have doulas and maternal health support, and all of this lactation feeders and just different things that we don't have access to, which puts our babies at a disadvantage, which puts our community at a disadvantage. Not just food disparities, but also the digital divide. There's a major digital divide amongst African American communities, because we don't have access. We don't budget. We don't know about the budget process because we don't make enough money to budget. So when you talk about someone who lives in a suburban neighborhood who can afford $105 for Comcast or AT&T versus a mother who's trying to put food in front of her children and get them back and forth to school and get back and forth to work. That $105 or even $80 is not set up in her budget. So the digital divide also puts us as in a great disadvantage as well, to not be able to experience equality amongst our white counterparts, the white people, the white children. And so it's a sad thing in our neighborhoods. Our neighborhoods in Detroit, everybody know there's Detroit, which is the old Detroit. And then there's the new Detroit, which is the gentrified Detroit. If you go downtown Detroit, you have access to everything: food, bikes, play escapes, everything that you would want in your community. You go to the old Detroit, which is the hood or the neighborhood, there are abandoned buildings, abandoned houses that our children have to walk past when they're going to school. There's bottles, there's trash all in the streets. There's no fresh grocery stores or fresh food. There's a bunch of restaurants that's overpriced. And that really puts us in a disadvantaged space that really does a deal on us. And even working in the city, living in the city and working on behalf of the city, a lot of times I see these things and I talk about it. And I talk about it not to just make noise, but to make change. So I believe that in making change, you have to speak up. You have to tell your story. And you have to definitely be real about telling your story, real about helping people, real about wanting to help people. And so I'm just asking you all, what are your thoughts today? How do you feel in this space? And what do you think change looks like in helping your community and helping communities of color? Because this is something that should not go on. A baby should not go to sleep hungry. Enfamil and Similac is like $22 a can for a small can. One baby can consume a can in 3 to 4 days. So if mom doesn't have a bridge card, if mom doesn't have access to a Walmart, she has to spend $25 for that same can, if not more, at a store or at a local grocery. And now she has to feed her other children, or she has to feed herself or her husband or whoever. Black communities are so barrier represented that we have to start breaking those barriers. And it starts with conversations here. It starts with action thereafter. And together we can do it. As a community of builders, we can make this happen. So if you have any questions, any comments or concern, you can drop them in the chat and I will respond accordingly.
Hello. That was so great. We have a question. It says, I wish there could be more access to fresh foods. Are there any food co-ops or community gardens?
Yes, we do have community gardens in Detroit. The problem with that is a lot of them have been uprooted because of soiling issues. Mm-hmm. And so what we have begun to do is partner with places like Gleaners Food Banks, our local Krogers, which are not really our local Krogers, but we have started to combine with them with COVID being an issue. We have started to link with those places, Destined for Greatness, and partner and try to provide fresh food, try to make sure that our people have shelf-stable food that is great for them and great to eat as well. But funding also, I didn't even touch on that, which is a big thing for me, but funding for food programs for African American communities that face food deserts is a big thing. Like, I can get diapers before I can get food. I can get clothes before I can get money for food. So that is a big, big tug and a major barrier for us.
Okay. That was a really good question. Thank you for, thank you for the person who asked it. Um, Let me ask you a question because I think I have a little bit more of an inside view of all of the things that you do. Um, what are the best ways to support the programs that you run for, especially, of course, for those of us who are here in the Metro Detroit area, but also for anybody else around the country who wants to support you, but maybe also wants to learn from what you're doing and, duplicate it in their communities where there are very similar needs. Like, can you tell us? Those are two questions. So let's start with the second one first.
Okay.
What if somebody, let's say, in their own communities, they see these similar needs and they want to start something similar? What are the steps that you would recommend that they take?
I would recommend if they want to start helping their community, speak up, start talking to some people, because AJ, you and I have conversations all the time about this. And this is not a one person show. This is us showing up. So I would say the first thing to do is connect with people who are like-minded, connect with volunteers, and then connect with grocery stores or your local food chains to get the support of your community to help the community. And also to get people on the ground, get boots on the ground. You're going to need a few people who are very sincere about helping people. Definitely tap into your philanthropic group of people to make sure that you have funds, because you can't go and get if you don't have funds to get there. You definitely want to make sure that you have the support of the people you are trying to help. And that's just being authentic. That's just being your true self, showing up as your true self with no hidden agendas. Or, some people say, oh, okay, I'm going to give out food one day because I'm running for office, or I'm going to do this because I want the support of people. But you have to be authentic. You have to really truly want to help people. And when you want to help people, you'll get other people to help you. So that would be the first thing: getting volunteers, building connections, and making partnerships.
Okay, great. Do you have, follow up on that, especially when people have to kind of go seek these partnerships and, like, find these people, and because funding is so critical, and I know how funding is critical, how critical it is for you. Um, do you have any sort of best practices on what's worked best for you when you reach out for these types of partnerships? Are there certain, like, are there any resources that people can go to where it lists out, like, I don't know, a list of like do's and don'ts of like how to reach out for partnerships? Or is this just something you figured out as you went along?
So for me, it was a little bit more organic. It was like just searching. And in the midst of this pandemic, it's been a little bit easier because I've been doing the work for 10 years. But really, I think just having a conversation, going and saying, okay, I live in this community and this is what we have. But you also want to take some type of paperwork with you. So if you can show where you live and who the people are, your target audience of the people who you're trying to help, maybe some percentages about age. Everybody want to know, well, how old is these people? You have older people sometimes who really just care about, a lot of people who care about kids. So that's our major thing, like, oh, the kids, the kids, the kids. And then you have some people who are like, okay, well, I just want to help seniors. Some people only want to help the homeless population. So you have to know your population, and you have to know the people when you tell them you need their help to help this population. You need to know what is the why. Who are we helping, and why are we helping these people? How do you know that they need help? So definitely do a little research before. You don't want to just go out asking people for money or asking stores to partner with you and you don't have people at the ready, because then they'll show up and the people won't come out because they didn't know to. So definitely have a population of people, definitely talk to some people, see what the people need. I don't just go to the stores and say, oh, I want 4 boxes of graham crackers. Like, I'm like, what do you need? You need oatmeal, you need eggs, you need sausage, you need waffles. Okay, if this is what you need, then this is what I'm going to provide. So definitely know your target and know the people who you are servicing.
Absolutely. That's so critical, I think, because I think many of us because we're not in the space of fundraising and we're not trained to do these types of things, as obvious as it is about knowing your people and knowing your population's needs, at least in what I've found, is that's a simple but obvious piece that most people miss. And then when those questions get asked, they're like, oh, we'll get back to you, and then go do the research. I know I've done that in the past too, like where for New Leaders Council, when we had to do our fundraising, I didn't have all of the documents in front of me, and people were asking me these questions about, like, where's the money going and what's it for? And I was like, huh? Give me the money? And that doesn't work, y'all. So I'm just saying. So I think Shadora is absolutely right. Do your research and be strong about it. And so, Shadora, as we wrap up, last question, like I was started off earlier, for those of us who are in the Metro Detroit area or anywhere else who want to help you and help this great initiative that you have, what are your organization's needs, and what are the best ways in which we can support you?
Okay, great question. If you are in the Metro Detroit area, you can always volunteer. We are at 5555 Connor, which I call my connection site because I was born there in 1989, as you mentioned, AJ, and also worked there as a customer liaison for Michigan Works One Stop in 2014. And now I am there with an entire wing, the wing that I was born on. 8 office suites later, Destined for Greatness has a home. And we've been there about 3 years now. So if you are in the Metro Detroit area, you can definitely come by. You can come by and support. You can volunteer, help us pack care packages for the homeless, because the homeless don't just need care packages in the winter, they need them in the summer too, people. So you can help us pack care packages for the homeless, or sanitary napkins for women and girls in need of sanitary napkins. We have hygiene kits now for both women and men. We have diapers that need to be sorted by sizes for babies. We also have adult continence for the elderly or those who are in need of. And so there's a lot of things on the ground that we can do. But also, if you want to donate financially, you can go on our website at www.dfgmentoring.org. That's www.dfgmentoring.org. You can go there and support. We also have a PayPal account and Cash App and Venmo. As you know, at this current time, we need your funds. If you have them, $5, $2, $3, it does not matter. We have work to do. And in order to continue to do the work, we as a community of builders, we as a people need to help one another to get through this. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. So I don't think there are any more questions. So with that, we can actually start wrapping up. Thank you so much, Shadora, for taking this time. I know how busy you are, and I know how hard you work. So it is truly so, I'm so appreciative that you took the time out to talk to us about and tell us your story, and tell us the story about the needs of populations and how to best serve them, and really serve as a really great role model and a shining example of how one person can make a world of difference for an entire community. And I think, that's overall today's theme for the summit overall is, what does it take to build a culturally competent society for all of us? And I think your story and everything that you do is a great example of what we can do as individuals to, and impact our communities. So thank you so much. And for
No
all
problem, Sissy. I'm actually in Atlanta, where we're doing our second part of Destined for Greatness. We have a Destined for Greatness Atlanta that's blooming right now. And because of that beautiful train sound, I was just like, well, I guess we're moving on. So that was one thing I didn't mention. But the work doesn't stop in Detroit. It's going to be in all urban communities. Next up is Baltimore. We'll have a Destined for Greatness Baltimore as well, because we want to shine the light on African American communities, and we want them to thrive and not just survive.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. So if you're in Atlanta soon, or coming soon to Baltimore, but if you're in Metro Detroit or in the Atlanta, area, definitely look up Destined for Greatness Mentoring Initiative and support them. And again, thank you so much, Shadora, for doing all of your work, for being you, and for being my little sister and having these amazing conversations with me. And for all of our viewers, whether you're tuning in live or especially if you're tuning in later, thank you so much for tuning in. Drop your questions in the comments and I'll make sure they get to Shadora. I know she's incredibly busy, but she always responds eventually. That I can guarantee you. And again, as a last note, thank you to all of our sponsors and partners who have made this possible. Essential IT, Defy the Status Quo Marketing, Zanzibar Enterprises, and the Nielsen Company. We will see all of you shortly in the next session, which is about to start very, very soon. But that's it for all of us from this session. So hope you guys are having a wonderful Friday, and we'll catch you in the next session. Bye.